What's up, hooligans? Happy freedom.
As you all know, this morning, President Biden and Vice President Harris spoke to Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Prostitute.
This was the president's third conversation with him since this crisis began. President Biden and Vice President Harris continue to meet with the national security team to receive updates and give direction on next steps. The president held 17 calls and meetings over Saturday, Sunday, and Monday with his national security team. The president and the vice president have held more than 36 meetings, briefings, and calls since the attacks on Israel began. The president will continue to be relentless in ensuring that Israel and the Israeli people have what they need in support from the United States to defend themselves in the days, weeks, months, and years ahead. As you all know, you just heard directly from the president, and I have the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, here to take any of your questions on this issue.
Thanks, everybody. I'll make a few comments, and then I'll be happy to take your questions.
Prostitute.
Like many of you, we've watched in horror and anguish the scenes of butchery against innocent civilians at the hands of Hamas terrorists in Israel. And the more we learn, the greater our grief. More than 1,000 men, women, and children were slaughtered in their homes, on their streets, in desert fields, and among them at least 14 Americans. We mourn for all their lives, and we're actively working with Israelis to determine the whereabouts of the missing, including missing American citizens. As the president just said, what we've seen from Hamas these past few days was the same evil and barbarity that we've seen from ISIS. The unspeakable horrors they perpetrated on innocent people, women, children, the elderly, babies. These were the scenes we saw in Iraq and Syria as ISIS rampaged through. As President Biden said, this is not some distant tragedy. The bonds between Israel and America run long and they run deep. And we stand with Israel, not just in these dark days, but at all times. As Karine just said, the president has been deeply engaged in giving direction to his national security team to take action to support Israel in its hour of need. At his direction, the United States has surged ammunition and interceptors for Iron Dome, and the president spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu just a little while ago to talk about additional capabilities that Israel will need, and he pledged that American planes will be landing in Israel with those capabilities in the days ahead. And now, at the direction of the president, we are working with Congress to make sure that Israel maintains supply of these critical assets to defend its cities and its citizens, as well as the many U.S. citizens who live, work, and travel in Israel. Also at President Biden's direction, the U.S. military has enhanced its force posture in the region to strengthen our deterrence, including the movement of a carrier strike group into the eastern Mediterranean, and we are prepared to move additional assets as necessary. Let me be clear, we did not move the carrier for Hamas. We moved the carrier to send a clear message of deterrence to other states or non-state actors that might seek to widen this war. The president has also tasked us with engaging in contingency planning for any and all escalation scenarios, and we are now deeply engaged in that planning, and we are consulting with allies and partners as well about all of the potential scenarios that might unfold in the days ahead. Let me repeat what we've now said many times and what the president said just a short while ago, so that everyone, including enemies who are thinking of exploiting the current situation, hear it loud and clear. The United States has always and will always have Israel's back. And to those families undergoing the unfathomable pain of having loved ones missing, our hearts go out to you. We cannot imagine the anguish you must be feeling right now. We know that U.S. citizens are among the missing, and we know that U.S. citizens, as the president just said, are among the hostages. We are working with the Israeli government and with our regional partners on every aspect of the hostage crisis, including sharing intelligence and deploying experts from across the U.S. government to advise the Israeli government and coordinate with them on hostage recovery efforts. As the president just said, there is no higher priority than the safety and well-being of American citizens being held hostage overseas. Over the coming days, we'll continue to stand strongly with Israel to ensure that it is able to defend itself. And my team and I are working with our colleagues across the U.S. government every hour to keep the president updated on the latest developments, to take his direction and put it into action, and we'll continue following his direction to provide Israel and the people of Israel all the support required at this time of need. And with that, I'd be happy to take your questions. Yeah.
Jake, thank you.
We'll do you first and then.
Thank you, Jake.
Yeah, go ahead.
On the American hostages, can you first of all tell us how many? Are we talking about several or a dozen hostages? And do you know anything about their condition at all?
We do not know about their condition, and we cannot confirm a precise number of American citizens. We believe that there are 20 or more Americans who at this point are missing, but I want to underscore and stress that does not mean necessarily that there are 20 or more American hostages. Just that is the number who are currently unaccounted for. We will work hour by hour both to determine whether we can account for any of those Americans or to confirm exactly what the number of Americans are being held hostage, and we will come back to you with that information as soon as we have it. As you know, very sadly and tragically, the number of dead has risen with each passing hour, and that's true of the total number. It's also true of Americans, which has gone up just today from an earlier report this morning of 12, then 13, now 14. So I cannot give you a precise number. I can tell you that number of unaccounted for at this time. That number could change too, but I want to underscore that that is not a statement from me that we have that many hostages. We do not know the number of hostages we have at this time.
And did the president discuss with the prime minister the possibility of a ground incursion into Gaza, and also how that might affect the American hostages that are in Gaza that are now confirmed?
I'm not going to get into the operational discussions that the president and the prime minister had. That is important for them to be able to keep in a discrete channel between them. What I will tell you is that the president and prime minister did discuss how the United States can deploy expertise to help work on the hostage recovery efforts. That is what the United States is in the process of doing right now, Steve.
Under what circumstances would you put American forces on the ground to help out?
At this point, that is not something that is under planning. What we are focused on when we talk about sending experts, it is people who can work on intelligence, who can work on overall planning, who can work on coordination with the Israeli government. We are not currently sending forces to Israel, and I'll leave it at that for now. Yeah.
Has the president spoken to any of the families of the 14 American citizens who were killed?
He has not yet spoken with the families, but the State Department has been in contact with those families, and the president has been making this his highest priority as he receives briefings each day about what we are doing to try to determine both what's happening with the missing and also to ensure that we can secure the bodies of those who have perished and ensure that they get returned to their loved ones.
Are you also reaching out to those whose loved ones may be unaccounted for? One family member of a missing American said that there's been no formal attempt by the U.S. government to update the families.
We have, in fact, updated the families of the unaccounted for Americans that we know of. If there are Americans for some reason who have not yet been reached out to, that will be remedied immediately because Secretary Blinken, President Biden, everybody in the U.S. government is making this the highest priority. So we are in very regular contact with every family who has someone either missing or unaccounted for, and anyone who's not currently on that list for whatever reason, we will take care of that. That is going to be our highest priority. Yeah.
Thanks, Jake. Two quick questions, one for clarity. The Iron Dome replenishment, has it already arrived or is it on its way?
Some of the interceptors have come out of stocks that the U.S. had in country. So those have gone over to the Israelis in short order, and then we will be flowing in additional Iron Dome interceptors so that they have the capabilities they need to sustain their Iron Dome defense systems. We are also looking at other ways that we can help augment their air defense capabilities as well as we look ahead, not just to what's happening now, but to potential contingencies that could unfold.
And then secondly, what can you say about Iran's role in the Hamas attack? And is that one of the actors you were worried about widening the war?
Look, we've said since the beginning that Iran is complicit in this attack in a broad sense because they have provided the lion's share of the funding for the military wing of Hamas. They have provided training, they have provided capabilities, they have provided support, and they have had engagement and contact with Hamas over years and years. And all of that has played a role in contributing to what we have seen. Now, as to the question of whether Iran knew about this attack in advance or helped plan or direct this attack, we do not, as of the moment I'm standing here at the podium, have confirmation of that. We are talking to our Israeli counterparts on a daily basis about this question. We're looking back through our intelligence holdings to see if we have any further information on that. We're looking to acquire further intelligence. And if there's an update to that, I'll share it with you. But as I stand here today, while Iran plays this broad role, sustained, deep, and dark role in providing all of this support and capabilities to Hamas in terms of this particular gruesome attack on October 7th, we don't currently have that information. We will continue to look for it, and if we find it, we will share that with you. Yeah.
Thank you, Jake. Looking back at the last few days, how did Israel miss this attack coming?
That's a question for you to ask the Israeli government. Obviously, the Israeli government has placed a high premium on its intelligence capacity as it relates to Hamas, as it relates to the West Bank, as it relates to Hezbollah, and why it is that they did not have warning from this is not a question that I can answer from this podium.
What about U.S. intelligence? Was there anything in what crosses your desk that would suggest that this was coming?
We did not see anything that suggested an attack of this type was going to unfold any more than the Israelis did.
And in your meeting in the Situation Room today, we saw an image earlier. At some point, undoubtedly in the last few days, the president has seen the images of the dead Israelis. What has been his reaction when shown those images?
I mean, you've seen him now twice. You've heard his voice. And this has been a deeply emotional time for all of us, as I'm sure it is for many people in this room who know people or know people who were killed or who are missing. And all of us have developed close relationships with our Israeli counterparts. President Biden has a decades-long relationship with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and he can hear the pain in Prime Minister Netanyahu's voice when he talks to him. I hear the pain of my counterparts when I talk to them. So this is not just about policy or strategy. This is personal for us, and it's personal for the American people with their bonds with the Israeli people. And so President Biden has seen and felt the deep emotional resonance of this, but he has also held the conviction that his job as president is to make sure that he has the clarity of mind and purpose to take the actions necessary so that we are standing with Israel in its hour of need, so that we are working to deter a widening of this conflict, and so we are getting Israel the tools that it requires to defend itself. Yeah.
Thank you, Jake. You just laid out all of the ways that Iran is complicit in this and facilitated it over years of support for Hamas. Is that reason enough to refreeze the $6 billion that the U.S. helped unlock for them to get in exchange for the prisoners?
We have not yet had a dollar of that $6 billion spent, and I will leave it at that.
But will you refreeze it based on this activity that you just laid out, all of the ways that they are complicit in this? The administration said that if we see them going in the wrong direction, that we would stop that down. I understand the position that you guys have, that not a dollar of this has been spent. But will you prevent it from getting into their hands to allow them to, do what they do that you just laid out?
Let me just reiterate what I said, because it's unequivocal. Not a dollar of that money has been spent, and I will leave it at that.
Is it being considered?
Yes.
Jacob, if I can ask you, will the U.S. support Israel's military attacks in Gaza for as long as it takes, until the hostages are freed, or until Hamas is destroyed? I guess in simple terms, how much retaliation in Gaza is the U.S. willing to accept?
I don't think of this in terms of retaliation. This is about providing support to Israel as it seeks to defend its territory and deal with an ongoing imminent threat from Hamas terrorists who, as I said before, are acting a heck of a lot like ISIS terrorists in their barbarity and cruelty. That requires going after Hamas terrorist targets in Gaza, because even as we speak, even as I stand here, there could be rockets flying out of Gaza. Going after those sites, that's not retaliation. That's Israel stepping up to defend itself and ensure the safety and security of the Israeli people. And we're going to support them for as long as they need to ensure that Israel is safe and secure. And I can't put a timetable on that.
So to be clear, is the goal the destruction of Hamas, the guarantee that Hamas cannot launch attacks from there, the confirmation that all Americans and Israelis have been secured safely from there? What is where do you draw the line? Is there a red line, and where do you draw that line of what you need to accomplish, what
I'm
they
not,
may accomplish?
I'm not standing up here to draw red lines. What I'm standing up here to say is that in its hour of need, as Israel embarks on an operation to try to protect its country, protect the Jewish state of Israel, and to go after the threats that it faces, and also working closely with them hand in hand to try to secure the release and recovery of American and other hostages, we will do all of that. And I'm not here to draw red lines or issue warnings or give lectures to anybody. I'm here to say that the president has given us direction to take a series of actions. We are undertaking those actions, and we will continue to do so in the weeks ahead.
Last one, very quickly, that we heard from the families of Americans who are unaccounted for right now. They spoke publicly in Israel today. You said the president hasn't spoken to them directly. What is the president's message to those families right now who said it is the responsibility of the president of the United States to make sure their loved ones come home safely?
The president said in his remarks today that as president of the United States, he has no higher priority than the safety and well-being of Americans held hostage overseas. And he has proven in country after country his willingness to go further than any other president has gone before to secure the release and bring those people home. He is going to try to do that in this case as well, but that is a high priority for him, and that is the message that he is sending, along with a deep sense of understanding of the grief and hurt and pain and anguish they are feeling right now as they wait to hear news of their loved ones. Yeah.
Jake, the president has remarks today referred to seeking for assistance for partners, plural. Does that suggest that you've decided strategically to ask Congress for a package that includes both Ukraine aid as well as aid for Israel? And, you know, Chairman McCall suggested even including border and Taiwan money and that. I'm just kind of hoping you could give a state of play of how you guys are thinking about this in your interactions with the Hill.
So I'm not going to get ahead of the president's request and not going to take the place of the OMB director who will present the request that we send up. But the president was very clear today that we will be making a request to the Congress, and it will include a request for funding for support to Israel. And he has also been equally clear that we are going to renew our request to the Congress for aid to Ukraine. What exact form that all takes, that will be worked out and presented by others, not by me. But the notion that we're going to go up and ask for Israel aid and ask for Ukraine aid, that's unequivocal. We are going to do that.
Beyond Iron Dome and ammunition, were there any other requests made by Prime Minister Netanyahu today that we can expect to be part of that package?
He, as I mentioned in my opening comments, he did make specific requests with respect to other capabilities. I'm not going to get into the details of that from this podium, but he and the president discussed that. I spoke with Lloyd Austin, who was on his way to the NATO Defense Ministerial, about those requests. Secretary Austin is following up on that. And as I said in my opening comments, you can expect to see American planes flying into Israel to deliver military capabilities to support Israel. Yeah.
Just a follow-up on Iron Dome. How effective has it been in deterring the attacks? And I know you mentioned this a bit in terms of the interceptors, but has Israel asked for interceptors on an ongoing basis in light of the situation?
You ask how effective it has been in deterring. I can't say that it is deterred, obviously, because a huge number of rockets have fired, but it has been effective, as it typically is, in taking a lot of those rockets out of the sky and saving countless lives by doing so. Now, of course, some rockets have gotten through to tragic cost, and that has been the pattern we have seen in previous conflicts as well. Now, Israel will have an ongoing need for interceptors, because an air defense system is only as good as your ability to continue to put interceptors in that can take out the rockets that are coming to kill civilians and rain down terror on cities. And we are committed to making sure that we are working with Israel to produce and supply the requisite number of Iron Dome interceptors so that they can keep those systems going on an indefinite basis going forward, because we cannot say how long this will be going on. Yeah.
Thank you. Jake, while you're supporting Israel militarily and rightly denounce this horrific and heinous act against Israeli civilians, how can you make sure that Israel goes after Hamas and its infrastructure in Gaza, not 2 million Palestinians who are trapped with no water, with no electricity, with no medical supply? The UN schools are overflown now. The number of dead is reaching 850 so far, including 6 members of one family of the former ambassador to Washington. How can you make sure that this is not revenge, but actually going after Hamas, who committed this horrible crime?
Well, as the president said today, The difference between countries like the United States and Israel is that we do not deliberately target civilians. We are strongest when we are committed to the rule of law, and we work to make sure that all military operations are conducted consistent with the rule of law and the law of war. That is something that President Biden and Prime Minister Netanyahu have discussed, not just in this context, but in previous contexts as well. That is something the United States has always stood for and always will continue to stand for. Yeah.
Sorry, can you confirm that the Egyptian intelligence has passed information to the Israelis that the attack is imminent or some attack is going to happen?
I cannot confirm that. Yeah.
Prime Minister Netanyahu had tweeted on Saturday telling residents of Gaza to leave now because we will operate forcefully everywhere. Where is the idea of where people in Gaza will go?
This is something also that we have been discussing with our counterparts in Israel and with our counterparts in Egypt. And without getting into the specifics of safe passage for civilians and so forth, I will say it's something that the U.S. government is seized with in supporting how we do that operationally. But the details of that are something that are being discussed among the operational agencies, and I don't want to share too much of that publicly at this time.
Imminently, or what is a...
I'll leave it at the fact that we are focused on this question. There are consultations ongoing, and I'll share more when I have an update for you. Yeah.
Following up on that question about what the president said about talking to the Israeli prime minister about democracies and the laws of war.
Serum said they got Tim Pool up there doing sign language right now.
It's necessary to bring that up in the call today.
It was not a warning. The call today was not President Biden warning Prime Minister Netanyahu about anything. It was two leaders talking to one another, one who is leading a nation that has suffered an unfathomable attack, and another nation who is standing behind them foursquare in the defense of their country. And the conversation carried on in those terms, and the two leaders spoke in a collaborative fashion, as they always do. No, I cannot accept the characterization of your question. Yeah.
Thanks, Jake. I have two questions. First, some reports are saying that IRGC commander was in Lebanon. Ismail Khani was in Lebanon a few days ago, and he left to Syria. Also, you are saying that Iran is complicit in this attack. Are you trying to downplay the Iranian role here? What are you waiting for to take an action? And my second question, what assessment do you have on where other Iranian militias stand now, whether in Iraq? We also heard the Houthis threat now. Can you give us an update? And is there a risk on the U.S. troops in the region? Thank you.
So on your first question, I laid out our view, which is the broad complicity based on the long-standing support that Hamas is giving to Iran. We don't have specific information that ties Iran to this attack. At this time, we don't have that information. We may gain that information in the hours and days ahead, but we don't presently have it. So that's in answer to your first question with respect to the intelligence. With respect to the question of the various militia groups across the region, we do believe that they pose an urgent threat, and that it is certainly distinctly possible that they choose to try to exploit or take advantage of this situation, and we have been sending clear warnings that doing so will result in a firm response and consequences from the United States. And that goes across the board, and we have been clear also in sending a message of deterrence through the movement of the Carrier Strike Group into the Eastern Mediterranean, as well as through the assurance that we will sustain F-16s, F-35s, A-10s in theater to be able to deal with any contingency that the United States might have to deal with in the days ahead. Yeah.
Thanks, Jake. The European Union says it opposes a total siege of Gaza. What's the U.S. position on that?
I have seen those reports, but my understanding is that is not the concept of siege is not something that, in fact, is going to be pursued by the Israeli government. But we are consulting with the Israeli government about their actions in this regard. And like I said before to a previous question, President Biden and Prime Minister Netanyahu had the opportunity to talk through the difference between going full bore against Hamas terrorists and how we distinguish between terrorists and innocent civilians. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jake. Just zooming out to China, is the U.S. worried that this attention now to Israel is going to detract resources from the Indo-Pacific? Have you communicated with Beijing about this attack in Israel? And just going to Senator Schumer's comments, he said he was disappointed by President Xi's soft response. Has that been part of the discussions here?
We were not entirely surprised by the PRC's response based on their history of commentary on these kinds of issues. We believe that the United States is capable of supporting Ukraine in Europe, of supporting our allies in the Indo-Pacific, and of supporting our close ally Israel in its hour of need. And we believe we have the resources, tools, and capacities to be able to effectively do that. And part of our job is to ensure that we are working across all of these theaters at once, and that's precisely what we're doing each day. Yeah.
There have been some Republican lawmakers who have argued the U.S. can't support two wars. Could you address some of that and talk a little bit about how you'll make these requests to Congress and make the case that the U.S. needs to invest, maybe not with troops on the ground, but with military and economic aid in both Israel and Ukraine?
Standing for Ukraine so that Russian aggression does not prevail in Europe.
We're just going to pay everyone to go to war. We need a mid-briefing goat scream.
In fact, to conquer Ukraine and then potentially have its aggression continue across Europe, it is so much more cost-effective to take the action now as opposed to pay the huge price later, a price that might ultimately, as it has in the past, require the actual deployment of American troops to combat. So better to support the Ukrainians as they stand firm against Russian aggression and do so on a sustained basis. And we have the budget wherewithal to be able to do that. We also have the budget wherewithal to be able to provide Israel what it needs. And we firmly reject the notion that the United States of America cannot at once support the freedom-loving people of Ukraine and support the state of Israel. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Jake. Is the administration working with Israel and Egypt to open the Rafah crossing to try to ensure evacuations are possible? And then also, I know that you said that in conversations with Israeli leaders, you don't think that a complete siege is something that they may be attempting to do in Gaza, but is there any counsel of restraint from the administration to Israel?
So on the first question, in reference to a previous question, I spoke about our consultations with the Israelis and the Egyptians about how to deal with the challenge of civilians who want to leave Gaza. I'm not going to get into the details of that, about a specific crossing or so forth, only to say that that is something we are focused on and we are working on. And I want to leave those conversations in diplomatic channels, at least for the moment. When we have more to offer on that, I'll be sure that we do so. And then we are having conversations with the Israelis, as I have described. And again, at this podium, I'm not going to go into details on them in terms of what precise messages we're passing. It's important that we be able to talk to the Israelis in the way that we always do, as good friends, as honest friends, and we will continue to do that. Yeah.
Thanks, Jake. So on the home front, over 150 people who are on the terrorist watch list have been seized along the southern border this fiscal year. And we've reported that there's been over 1.5 million known gotaways since the Biden administration took office. Is this something the American people should be worried about right now?
We continue to remain vigilant about terrorist threats to the homeland from anywhere. It is something that we are very much working on, that we are consulting with the Congress on, that we are seeking to secure the necessary resources to continue to work through. And anytime we see any threat stream involving a terrorist threat to the homeland, we mobilize every asset and resource of the U.S. government to go after that. And that includes information and analysis that we have shared with the Congress about plots emanating from the Middle East, plots emanating from other places. We'll continue to do that. We also will continue to take steps to pursue a humane, orderly border policy, and we will work with the Congress in the weeks ahead to continue to get the resources we need to be able to do that. I would point out that in the last supplemental, we actually sought additional funding for the border, which was not forthcoming in the ultimate package that went through. So the Biden administration has said to Congress already, we're looking for more resources to be able to deal with the continuing challenges that we have at the border. Yeah.
Jake, the president doesn't have a confirmed ambassador to Israel at this point. What are you doing to get Jack Lew confirmed given he was nominated about a month ago. The nomination was sent to the Senate in late September. What's the plan to get him on the ground?
Well, first, the Senate is coming back into session next week. Second, when they do, we are going to work with both Democrats and Republicans, and particularly the leaders on both sides and the chair and ranking of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee to make that happen as soon as humanly possible, and then get him out to the region immediately thereafter.
Is that your top priority when Congress returns, apart from the aid requests that you're talking about?
Well, it's hard to answer top priority in the sense that our top priority when Congress comes back is going to be the full spectrum of needs that Israel has. Some of that is related to the support that we're seeking from Congress, and then, of course, having high-level diplomatic representation is going to be critical as well. So we will move urgently on that the minute that they come back. Yeah.
When do things earlier? I'm sorry. Can you just clarify your answer?
Sorry, it's the.
Yeah. Just one question. Can you just give us where things stand with the normalization deal? Is that on hold now? Is there any progress? Do you see any progress for that?
So we are right now focused on dealing with the immediate challenge that we are confronting and that Israel is confronting. And so I'm not going to give a characterization on the state of play on normalization. It's not on hold, but obviously over the last 4 days, all of our attention with respect to our support for Israel has been focused squarely on this conflict, on this heinous, brutal attack, and on helping Israel be able to defend itself. We're going to continue to try to do that. Yeah.
Just clarify your answer, your yes.
You and the president have both compared Hamas to ISIS. What does that say about the U.S. approach to Hamas going forward?
Well, we have labeled Hamas a terrorist group for years, if not decades. And we have consistently supported Israel in its efforts to fight back against and undermine Hamas, and we will continue to do so. In the immediate term, what it means is working with Israel to ensure that they are able to go after that Hamas threat in Gaza effectively, relentlessly, and to the point where they feel that their security and their deterrence has been fully restored. Yeah.
Can I just ask real quick? I'm sorry. Mr. Sullivan, are you concerned at all that those who are here in the U.S., terrorists who are here in the U.S., may be emboldened by what's happening now? And just to piggyback on what was asked earlier, because we do know that there are people sort of lurking here, is there a concern that there may be a flare-up?
The president put out a written statement yesterday with multiple elements to it.
It's a little flare up there.
Was about the focus that we have right now on protecting Americans here at home against anyone who would seek to exploit or piggyback on what has unfolded, these gruesome events that have unfolded in Israel. Part of that is about protecting places of worship, synagogues, and ensuring that we don't see a kind of virulent form of anti-Semitism sparked by what has just happened. And then part of that is about ensuring that any terrorist threat here in the United States or to the United States or to Americans anywhere in the world, that we are at a heightened state of vigilance to deal with that. That's something the president directed his team. It's something he spoke to yesterday in that statement, and it's something that he will be convening his national security team on this week because it remains a very high priority. And I'll take the last question.
Does the administration regret making the prisoner swap with Iran in light of these attacks?
The United States does not regret bringing home American citizens who have been unjustly detained abroad. As I said before, the president has no higher priority than to get Americans home. Right now, we have Americans who are being held hostage by Hamas in Gaza. That is a high priority. Bringing those Americans home from Iran was a high priority, from Afghanistan, from Venezuela, from other places as well. And we stand by bringing those people home because that is the duty of the commander-in-chief, is to get innocent Americans out of captivity in places that they are being unjustly detained. Thanks.
If Israel strikes Iran, what level of support can they count on from the U.S.?
How many more questions could you really have about the same thing?
Okay. I know the president's going to have an event shortly, and the pool's going to have to gather. So we'll take a few questions. Go ahead, my friend. Go ahead.
Hi, Karine. On the special counsel interviews, did the president answer all the questions that were asked during the interviews And was executive privilege invoked at any time? I know there's limits on what you can say, but any transparency would be helpful on this.
So look, my colleague at the White House Counsel put out a statement yesterday, providing an update of where we are with this particular interview and the special counsel. Obviously, I'm just not going to go beyond what my colleague has shared. If you have any further questions, certainly I would refer you to the Department of Justice or the White House Counsel to ask any detailed information.
For the record, though, we understand the President's interview with Special Counsel Robert Hur was scheduled long before the conflict began. At least that's what we're being told by people here at the White House and elsewhere. Did the President and his legal team ever ask for the interview to be rescheduled, given what transpired in Israel over the weekend?
So again, Ed, I'm not going to go beyond the statement from the White House Counsel, and you all know and have seen for yourself, the President spoke this is the second time he's spoken about Israel in the last couple of days, so we know how focused he's been on what has happened. He's shown his leadership over the horrific events over the weekend in Israel. And look, we disclosed the interview. We put that out in a statement from the White House Counsel for my colleague at the White House Counsel. And the President obviously was intensely engaged. He spoke to many of our allies, whether the King of Jordan, the leaders of Italy, France, Germany, and the UK. He met, and as I said at the top, he met with our national security team over a dozen times. And he spoke with Bibi, Prime Minister Netanyahu, to be more precise, the third time today, so twice over the weekend. So he's been very much focused on the issues of the horrific events that we have seen in Israel. The President is able to do multiple things at once. Right? As president, he has to do multiple things at once, and that's what you saw him do this weekend.
And the President's need to be interviewed by the special counsel yesterday impede or keep him from giving the remarks he gave yesterday? Because press office certainly knows there was a lot of inquiry and concern and criticism that perhaps he was not as publicly engaged yesterday as he possibly could have been. It was a federal holiday. There was some respect or decision made to not hold public events on the federal holiday, but clearly he was doing a big thing by meeting with the special counsel. So was there any reason to believe that impeded his ability to respond publicly to what was going on the news?
Well, as you just said, Ed, presidents have to do multiple things at once. He spoke on Saturday, right? When we learned, when all of you were reporting and it was incoming of what was happening in Israel. He spoke today, obviously. There were multiple statements from this president. I just mentioned he met with his national security team dozens of times. He did multiple calls with heads of states trying to make sure that we got the support, continued that support, organized the support of other allies and partners across the world. And we put out a statement as well, a joint statement from those allies and partners. Look, the president was very much engaged in showing his leadership and also how we're going to continue to support Israel, and that's how we're gonna move forward. And again, the president has to handle many things at once, and we saw him do that over the past couple of days, since Saturday.
The President said that he will urge Congress to act quickly on Israel aid. Obviously, Ukraine aid is also still outstanding. Is there a preferred pathway forward from this White House on how both of those things can happen, given the situation on Capitol Hill right now?
Look, Jake Sullivan spoke to this a little bit about when he was asked about the aid. Look, and he said this, he said it much better than I'm about to say, which is how important it is to continue to support Ukraine in their time of as they are fighting for freedom, as they're fighting the aggression from Russia. It is important that we continue to do that because, look, doing that now, the cost benefit of it now is so important to do it now than to allow Putin, a dictator like Putin, to continue beyond Ukraine, right? It is important that we continue to focus on making sure that Ukraine has everything that they need as they bravely fighting for their freedom and for their democracy. And we're going to continue to certainly move forward, as you heard with the president, to ask Congress when they get back for additional assistance. Both of those things are incredibly important. Both of those things need to move forward. Both of the things, as Jake said, we are able and can do as the United States. I'm not going to talk about our strategy. We're going to, certainly, as Jake said, the OMB director is going to lay that out. We're going to figure out the best path forward. I'm just not going to get into details on how that's going to look from now.
Have White House officials had any conversations with lawmakers about potentially speeding up the House speakership race?
Not going to get involved in the House speakership race. That is something, again, as I've said many times, as we have said many times, the House, as you know, is the majority goes to the Republicans. It is their path. It is their process to figure out who is going to be the speaker. Certainly, we want that to get done so that we can move forward with the business of the American people. But I'm not going to get into the congressional process from here. Trying to see who has not. Prostitute. Go ahead, Garrett. I know you haven't gotten called on.
There have been some clashes across the country and demonstrations amongst protesters in the aftermath of amid what's happening in Israel. How concerned is the administration that these clashes could turn violent, and do you have a message for demonstrators more broadly?
So look, I mean, Jake also spoke to our focus and our the importance of making sure that the Jewish community here is protected, making sure that there aren't acts of violence. We're always going to denounce any act of violence against any community, and certainly going to continue to show our support and going to be vigilant on that. Don't have anything else to go beyond that, but we are certainly monitoring, keeping an eye on all of this, and we're going to continue to support the community here. Yeah. We have to start. Go ahead, Phil.
What is the president's message to?
Okay, the pool should start leaving, and then we're going to take this last question.
Thank you, Green. What is the president's message to members of Congress who seem to be equating the Hamas terror attack with actions that were previously taken by Israel?
Say that one more time. Everybody's moving around. I apologize.
What is the president's message to members of Congress who seem to be equating the Hamas terror attack with actions that were previously taken by Israel?
Look, here's the thing, and which congressional members?
Well, there have been some members of Congress who have called for a ceasefire, and they have not gone as far as backing the administration's call for support for Israel.
So look, I've seen some of those statements this weekend, and we're going to continue to be very clear. We believe they're wrong, we believe they're repugnant, and we believe they're disgraceful. Our condemnation belongs squarely with terrorists who have brutally murdered, raped, kidnapped hundreds of Israelis. There can be no equivocation about that. There are not two sides here. There are not two sides. President Biden has been clear on where he has stood. You heard from him directly today.
It's really easy to tell where he stood. It's really clear. You can tell by the poop stains on the carpet.
To provide additional support to ensure
real clear.
Israel has what they need to defend themselves. All right. Okay. Go ahead. And then last question. And then we'll be back tomorrow.
Yesterday, the president said he was putting police departments on high alert. Can you guarantee that members of the Muslim diaspora or immigrant communities can still feel safe, can still exercise their civil liberties and exercise their criticism of Israel's behavior? Was that part of the conversations, and can you assure those communities that they still have all the rights?
I don't have any details of the conversation, but obviously the president is going to be, we're always going to denounce any type of violence, and certainly to keep communities safe, that is something we'll be vigilant about. I don't have anything else to add, but thank you so much. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thanks for coming.
Prostitute.
Well, hooligans, it has been a weird day. It's been a weird week. That's what happens when you hit a deer at 75, I guess. KJP sounded dumb as ever. Just another day. Press briefing at the podium of lies. Well, I wasn't intending on being late. I was trying to find a car. And then time got away from me, and then everything was failing. I had 3 cars lined up I wanted to go look at, and all of them sold before I could find a ride. I cannot find a ride anywhere. I can't even get a ride to the bank, let alone across the state or out of the state to get a new car. I am really stressing about all that stuff. I wasn't even going to do a coffee with hooligans today. We were just going to do the press briefing, but then I started feeling bad. So I threw a couple things in there. We're going to start off with a video titled Old Man Walter Interviewed by Special Counsel in Classified Documents Probe. And then our last video is Police Shoot Driver Who Rammed Chinese Consulate in the U.S. I'm going to read through the chat really quick, and then we will go ahead and get her started. Here, Juicer, you counted out 58 ums. Does that include Jake, or is that just KJP? If you guys are, if you're unaware, you need to go over to the website. The experience is awesome. It's awesome. The chat is great. The live is late because I had it paused, but you should go check that stuff out. Go to the link tree, click the link at the very top. Go check out the website for free. It is the best chat out of all the chats. It is awesome. It is awesome. Kevin, maybe you got lucky and avoided buying some lemons. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to just think. I mean, there isn't anything I can do. You know, there's nothing I can do. All I can do is search, make offers, communicate, try and find a ride, and hope they don't sell before I get there. And unfortunately, the last part of that hasn't been working out. I watched both replacements for my 09 Subaru Outback get sold last night. It was like 10 o'clock at night. I'm scrolling looking for cars, writing out offers and stuff to people, and then it was like notification after notification. Both cars sold. And then my final hope is now pending a sale right before the live started. So I don't even know what's going to happen. If I could get a ride to Wisconsin, there's like 3 cars that I could totally afford that are all 09 Outbacks, and I would be in there like swimwear, good to go. I don't have a ride to Wisconsin though. Uber will take me to Grand Rapids for $180 one way. The only problem is I'm worried that they'll drop me off in this strange place, and I'm going to meet a stranger, and then I won't like the car, and then I won't have a way home. And so I'm worried about that. My Lamborghinis can only carry me so far, and Klaus Daniels, he's just pretty. You know, he's not really useful for anything. Not really. Not unless somebody breaks in. I can throw the tactical cat at him while I go and retrieve my pistol. But that's about it. It's not going to help me get a car. So I'm trying to work things out. It's stressing me to the point where I'm sick. I hate it. Pumpkin, it will happen. Don't worry. I'm trying to be on top of things, but there's people that need me, and I'm not useful to them right now, so it's stressing me out. Big time. Just reading through the chat. Kevin, did you get the lake effect snow? I haven't been outside since I smacked a deer, so I don't even know what day it is. I don't know anything. I have not left this room in like 6 days, so I don't know. Maybe there could be snow outside. I hope not. I'm not gonna feel better about my day if there is, I'll tell you that. Let's see. What's up, Crystal? Appreciate you being here. Silver Wolf, I have brothers in Wisconsin. I can get you to Wisconsin and get the car looked at before we even go. I will help you. That would be fantastic. There's 3 of them that I can afford, and I talked to one's at a dealership, and they seem like cool people. That would be really awesome. If you could get a hold of me so we could work something out, that would be so awesome. Let's flip it through the chat really quick. What's up, Willie Fix It? Thank you so much for donating the 3 lemons over on D Live. I appreciate the support. Thank you. What's up, Shadows? I want to shout you out because you've been holding it down on D Live pretty much this whole live. I appreciate you hanging out and whatnot. I don't want you to feel like you're being ignored. I'm managing like 7 or 8 chats though, so I can't exactly hop in the chat with you during the press briefing. DeRosa, you like the flipping Klaus? I like those new Klaus emojis that we put together. I think they're awesome, especially the Klaus with the pistol. I love that. Angry Klaus. It's good stuff. I want to try and add some more custom emojis over on Twitch, but 1, it's really limited, and 2, they are hardcore about reviewing the emojis. I tried to do the dancing Trump, and they said that I'm not allowed to have political figures as emojis, which is crap because I've seen tons of Trump and Biden emojis over on Twitch. But, you know, they got to keep that censorship strong over there, so it is what it is. As long as we're dealing with YouTube, I won't even worry about the censorship on Twitch because YouTube is the king of censorship. What's up, JT3? Happy freedom. Let's see. Brandon Jeff's all in his feels. I went from shock to being manic after smacking that deer. I was in shock, and now I'm just manic as hell. I can't feel or think anything. I'm just running on autopilot. The stress is getting to me. Hey, I appreciate you being here, Jake. Well, I think we got everybody. So we're going to start on this first video here. I wish it was more informative than it actually is, but it's more or less just like a checkpoint that this took place, although it's not very informative and detailed. It's titled, Old Man Walter Interviewed by Special Counsel in Classified Documents Probe. This video is only 35 seconds long. It's a whole bunch of nothing. But it happened. I'm sure there was no raid. I'm sure there was no court hearing. Obviously, he wasn't indicted or anything like that. They just went and had a little talky talk with him. Before we get started, I want to remind you guys, go get you a free The Orange Eagle t-shirt, tank top, zipper hoodie, pullover hoodie, coffee mug. I think we got stickers. We got everything you need. Go check it out. But if that isn't your style, go get you a Screaming Goat version. Again, we have tons of items, all with these designs. It's not just the 2 designs. There's many designs. These are just our new designs. We have Second Amendment hooligan shirts. We have lady hooligan shirts. You can get a Jeff Mac shirt. You can get all kinds of stuff. All kinds of good stuff. Go check it out. I'll drop the link in the chat. She's given us her O face. She likes the work we're doing here. That's the only way you get a woman to make that face. I'll tell you what, hooligans. Let's get this started.
We are now learning that President Biden has been interviewed by special counsel Robert Hur as part of the investigation into his handling of classified documents. The White House says the interview was voluntary and took place Sunday and Monday. Quote, the president and the White House are cooperating with this investigation, and as it has been appropriate, we've provided relevant updates publicly, being as transparent as we can, consistent with protecting and preserving the integrity of the investigation. Classified documents from Biden's time as vice president were discovered at the Penn Biden Center in 2022. Additional documents found in his Wilmington, Delaware garage.
Like I said, it was short, lacking very much detail. But it happened. They went and had a little talk with him about all his classified documents that, you know, he had, which is actually like treason and stuff, because he's not qualified to declassify documents as vice president or whatever he was. He might have even been congressman or whatever when he took those classified documents. But either way, he was not authorized to do that. He did that. They had a little talk with him, and I doubt we'll even hear any more about it. No raids, no subpoenas, no nothing. Nothing good. I'm trying to put this link together, but the video was so short. There we go. All right. I'm going to read their chat really quick, and then we're going to move on to this last video. And at her, I thought it was a him. Oh, it was a her. It's hard to tell nowadays. Every once in a while, I'll be scrolling on TikTok, and I'm like, why does that person look a little weird? There's a little something there. And she's got like long blonde hair and all this makeup, and then she gets up to the mic and she's like, what up, guys? I'm like, oh man, that's a boy. Freaks me out. Scares the hell out of me, my goodness. Let's see, JT3, welcome over to Rumble. Appreciate you being here. Enterprise, I don't know why you're trolling everybody in the chat. You're going to make everybody get all pissed off, and really in the end that hurts me more than anything else. Stop trolling them so hard. Shadow, nah, I always talk to myself. Me too. Cat Daniels, he doesn't know what I do for a living. He's like, I don't know, for like 2-3 hours my dad sits in the living room and screams at his TV all day. I just run and hide for cover. All you hooligans over on Kick with the Klaus emojis. Klaus has no idea how famous he is. He's a good boy. We should come out with a hooligan calendar, and it's got Klaus all tactical out, American flags in the background and stuff. It's a good idea. It's a good idea. We used to talk about making hooligan calendars. Of course, people were asking me to do poses like those fireman calendars that the women purchase, that like they got their shirts off and stuff. Like, nah, I'm not doing all that. Not modeling for a calendar, no thank you. And just a little talking to. Yeah, old man Walter here. I'm surprised he even got the talking to. Hair juicer, gotta walk a half-mile mandatory forklift training. That's something. Will you be safe out there, hair juicer? I drove forklift for 3 years, and after I got laid off from the job, I realized that you're supposed to take training and like certification. I didn't even know that. They just taught me how to use the thing, and then they were like, get this done now. We don't have time for you to be screwing around. We don't have time to be holding your hand and giving you training wheels. We need you to move this really heavy crap from point A to point B, and we need you to do it 35 times an hour. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. I did it for years. And then afterwards, they're like, you got forklift certification? I was like, yeah, I drove forklift for 3 years. They were like, so where's your certificate? I just told you. I'm certified hooligan. Like, what do you mean? I told you. They were like, nah, you're supposed to have like training and all this other stuff. And then they had other questions. Where'd you use the work? I'm like, never mind. Don't be getting in my business here. Just trust me. I know how to operate a forklift. Saying. Let's see. Pumpkin, is that bad to yell at your PC? I don't think so. I think it could be a hobby of sorts. I yell at my PC, I yell at my phone, my cat. I have lots of hobbies. My neighbors know that I scream at my devices because they can hear me. Especially earlier today. Something's going on with the Brave browser, so I'm logging into YouTube, and it's telling me to log in to verify who I am. So I keep logging in, and it keeps telling me to log in again. And after 3 times of that, I had to start yelling at the computer. So right now I have like 3 different browsers open just so I can do the live, because it's complex the way that I do things. Let's see. Serum. I yell at PC people all the time. I don't yell at them. I just look at them in a strange way from a distance. Really being politically correct just means you're being fake. You're just being fake. And now that everything's about being politically correct, you notice how fake the environment is around us? Everything smells and tastes and looks like plastic. That's why we gotta make those punches in the face great again. You can't fake a punch in the face. I don't care what Will Smith and Chris Rock were doing out there on stage. You can't fake a real punch in the face. It does you good. Does you good. Wake you up. Bring you right back to the real world. I'm saying. And Dirty Jobs with Jeff Mack. Let's see. People will have to pay extra to watch that. That's something you can only watch on the website where you're really safe. We're going to move on to this last video. It's titled, Police Shoot Driver Who Rammed Chinese Consulate in the U.S. I don't know much about this, but it's news, and it's not about what's going on overseas. So, figure, why not? Why not? Really, it just looks like another day in Chicago, but, you know, 'tis what it is. Go ahead and get this started.
People were seen rushing out of the Chinese consulate in San Francisco Monday afternoon after a driver plowed a car into the lobby of the building's visa office. Police said law enforcement shot the driver, who later died in hospital. San Francisco Police Department spokesperson Sergeant Catherine Winters described the incident hours later.
Officers entered, made contact with the suspect, and an officer-involved shooting occurred. Officers rendered aid, and they had summoned paramedics from the San Francisco Fire Department. And in spite of the life-saving efforts of the police officers, firefighter, paramedics, and personnel at the hospital, the suspect was later pronounced deceased at the hospital.
Winters said the identity of the driver and the motive were not yet known, and there was no mention of any other injuries in the incident. She said police were working with U.S. State Department investigators and explained why few details could be given.
This is a unique investigation because it did happen inside the lobby of the Chinese consulate. So there's a number of agencies and jurisdictions that are involved. So this is far different than our normal officer-involved shooting, which really does unfortunately impact the amount of information that we can give to you at this time.
The Chinese diplomatic post in San Francisco called it an attack, saying in a statement it, quote, strongly condemns this violent attack and reserves the right to pursue responsibility for the incident. The State Department did not immediately respond to a Reuters request for comment on the incident.
Well, like I said, it's just something strange that happened. I don't know. They have no answers. They don't know why they did it. They didn't tell us who did it. They didn't tell us what's going to happen. Probably nothing. Let's sweep it under the rug and chalk it up as another gun incident. I'm going to read through a chat really quick. Hair juicer recertification. I don't even run a forklift. What is it? Just a job requirement? So like if somebody calls in, you can cover them or something? Zero. I think that lady's facial features are feminine. Are you talking about the officer? Was everybody thinking the same thing I was thinking? Because that sounded like a dude. That sounded like a dude, but it looked just like a woman. I don't think it's a shapeshifter. I'm not sure what to think, honestly. Let's see. Serum, I'll buy you a Bud Light, officer. I don't know. Maybe it was a shapeshifter. I think we're all on the same page here. Read through the chat. It's looking like we were all on the same page. What's up, Murphy's Law? Happy freedom. Kevin, grow a beard and then you can be a wizard. Kevin, you know we can't say the wizard word, right? They might think we're white supreme pizzas out here. I can't grow a beard either. I don't know what this, I just get a shadow. I just get a little shadow right here. I can't grow facial hair. I've never even shaved this part of my face. Ever. It's never happened. It just grows in all white trashy like that. I don't know. It is what it is. Can't grow facial hair. Not able to. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Shadows, if they wanted to save his life, then why did they shoot him? You know why, Shadow. Because guns kill people. That's what they say. That's what the White House says. That's what all the politicians and the politically correct people, that's what it's all about. Oh, we were going to save his life. The gun just hopped out the holster. Blammo. Let the guy have it. We were going to save him, but, we got to ban those assault rifles or something. Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Yep, that's what it is. What's up, Overcloth? Happy freedom. We actually just got back on DLive. DLive actually sought me out and wrote me a thing saying they wanted me to bring the news to DLive. Then I haven't heard from them. I mean, it was really them. At first I thought I was getting scammed, but they actually went and reset all my stuff because my account was locked. And they unlocked my account. And now we're back over here. They're supposed to be promoting me and stuff, but they haven't done so yet, so I don't exactly know. But it's been fine since we've been back on DLive. DeRosa, you think the officer was a dude? I don't know. What was its name? Did it have one of those weird names that could be like either or? I can't think of one right now. Morgan, right? Could have been like Morgan, because that could be a dude, or it could have tits. Not sure. It could be either or. Officer Johnson, DeRosa. Well, that could go either way, I suppose. I don't know. Officer Johnson. It was sounding manly. It's like an SNL skit. Podcast gel. Wait, was it to be a woman? I don't know what it was. We're trying to figure it out. This is the investigative part of the journalism. We got to figure it out. Was it a boy or was it not? Kristen, dude looks like a lady, I swear. Proud ankle, drove a forklift 2, then promoted to the spoon lift. Very, very nice, proud ankle, very nice. Haven't made my way up to the spoon lift yet. See how it goes. If this doesn't work out, I'll give it a try. All right, hooligans. Well, that is all the coffee I had for you guys today. I'm sorry today was late and kind of janky. I'm, of course, going through things. I feel like I say that every day. I don't want to. I'll tell you that if that makes it better. I don't want to be going through things, but, you know, it takes time to fix these problems. And I want to give a huge shout out to everyone that's been helping me out, between helping me find cars, sending donations and stuff like that, joining the membership program just to help this whole situation, offering rides, getting in contact with me so we can get everything worked out. I appreciate all of you hooligans. You guys have made this situation suck a lot less. I could have been just sitting here totally screwed with no help. And thanks to all of you, I'm not in that situation. So I really appreciate all of you guys that have been helping me out and who continue to help me out. Hopefully we can get a car this week and just forget it all happened. Those racist deer that come out got me, nailed me. We gotta get past it though, and I believe we can. So what we're going to do is the Pledge of Allegiance. We're not going to be live later today with the game because I have to continue my pursuit to find transportation and a vehicle and all of that stuff. So we're not going to be playing the game again. As soon as I didn't mean it like that. When I get the vehicle, we'll go back to playing the game. But until then, I need the extra time to be able to figure this out. We will be live tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern time for the very next Coffee with Hooligans. But first, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We did the thing. I didn't mute myself. It is going swimmingly. I'm going to read through the chat really quick. Make sure you hooligans are all good to go. Then we're going to wrap this up. Once again, we are not going to be playing the game tonight. As soon as we get the car fixed, so the car problem fixed, we'll go back to playing the game. But we will be live again tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern time for the very next Coffee with Hooligans. Let's see. Hair juicer, I have to be certified for all kinds of things that I don't do. Several weld processes that I haven't touched in 15 years. Yeah, I don't know. It's how work is, unfortunately. Will you stay safe out there, hair juicer? I appreciate you being here. Let's see. Pumpkin, don't let the deer to continue to terrorize you. I know. I see its dead face when I close my eyes. I'm like, why, dear? Why did you do this to us? I was screaming that earlier as I was watching cars. I'm like, oh, that looks like a good car. And I read, I'm like, oh, it's an 09, just like what I need. Oh, they just did the head gaskets and timing belt and water pump. Great. 200,000 miles. I could still run it another 100,000. It's in my price range. Awesome. And I hit him up. Hey, I'm really interested in your Subaru. When's a good time to meet and whatever. And they're like, oh, I got a guy looking at it earlier today, but I'll let you know. I'm like, okay. And then it's like, listing has been sold. Why, dear? Why did you do this to us? And then I was like, you know what? I'm going live. I can't do this. I need to break away from the phone and go live. But now it's time to descend back into darkness and go find another Subaru. I've been trying to look for Toyotas. I know the Toyotas are good cars. I've been looking at Hondas. Hondas are pretty good. The problem is I need four-wheel drive. And in my price range, I can't find a Toyota that is four-wheel drive and affordable. Hondas don't come four-wheel drive as far as I know, so that's kind of like very worst case scenario. I'll drop $2,000 and go get some crappy Honda and drive it until the snow melts, and then we'll go back to looking for Subarus, I guess. I don't know. But if I could find an 09 Subaru, that would be like perfect. It would be perfect. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Oh, I'm trying to find it. Silver Wolf, send me an email. All right, hooligans, I appreciate all of you guys. I got to get going. Big shout out to everyone that made donations, joined the membership program, or purchased any merch. I really appreciate all of you hooligans, and I would not be able to do this without you. So thank you so much for all your support. I'll see you on the next live. Until then, stand tall, shine bright, and that's a wrap.
Jeff